Chapter 24. African Refuge. At last I come to my senses. All seems to have gone well. And the sight of the men in arms around us doesn't frighten me, on the contrary, it reassures me. They're not from here. We've arrived. Clara opens the cockpit, retracts the harness, stands up and leans towards me, worried. Are you all right? An officer on the runway calls out to us before I can reply, please get out of the plane. You're under arrest. Too happy to have arrived safely, we don't think of rebelling and calmly get out of the Lambda. Immediately a dozen flesh and blood soldiers surround us. Some of them point their guns at us. The officer clears a path and approaches us, saying coldly, I am Colonel Adiba, in charge of this base and representative of the Armed Forces of the United States of Africa. I bid you welcome. I hope you haven't lied to us, otherwise you'll suffer the consequences. To ensure your good faith, you will be temporarily quarantined and subjected to certain tests. At the end of these tests, we'll decide your fate. We're not greeted with flowers and song. It's to be expected, and this mistrust is legitimate. Why should these people trust the citizens of a nation that has wiped them off the map and exploited them in the past? I reply, fine, we'll follow you. He gives us directions, and we move towards the buildings on our right. Then we're led to a cell where a man with a gun locks us in. The building that now houses us is partly carved out of the rock. A large bay window offers us a restful view of a calm, cerulean sea, bordered by a beach of rough grass and almost white gravel. We enjoy the utmost comfort, and the entertainment facilities allow us to discover this country that may yet become our own. As the days go by, our relationship with our captors becomes cordial. Truth tests and long conversations soon confirm that we are not imposters. We are soon at peace and serene. Little by little, things change in our heads. We once again have plans and desires for a new life. One evening, Clara comes and sits beside me, taking my hand in hers. She whispers in a tender voice, I'd like us to be totally human again. Flesh and blood. I ask her, why? Clara lets go of my hand, presses herself against me, kisses me sensually and then whispers in my ear, I want to have your baby. Suddenly, I feel a violent joy. A feeling that had become almost foreign to me. I take her in my arms, hug her fiercely and whisper between kisses, you're right. I want a child from you too. The pale, rosy light of sunset envelopes us. I carry Clara onto the bed. A brutal desire overwhelms me. Shuddering, my wife pulls me against her burning body and we make passionate love. This morning is like no other. Today is the day of the verdict. After 2 weeks of intensive questioning and analysis, Colonel Adiba and the representatives of the state will finally announce their decision. We're about to find out what our future holds. At 10 o'clock, a soldier picks us up and leads us to the senior officer's office. We are anxious. The door closes behind us. Colonel Adiba is surrounded by 2 government mediators. He says, sit down. As we told you yesterday, all the tests on you have been completed. I hope they didn't upset you too much. However, I think you understand the need for us to take such safety measures. The relationship between our country and yours now obliges us to do so. However, I won't let you languish any longer. We are convinced of your good faith. He pauses and looks at us with a benevolent, mischievous gaze, then resumes enthusiastically, I welcome you among us. Clara lets out a cry of relief. She jumps to her feet. Our joy is intense. This verdict sounds like the success of our escape. A hope come true. The colonel stands up and walks around his desk. We exchange a firm, warm handshake and I give him a grateful smile. One of the representatives approaches us and ejects 2 information discs from a small receptacle on his sleeve. He says, here are your identification codes so that you can move freely in Africa. I wish you happiness in Africa. A vehicle is waiting for you outside the base. It will take you to your new home. Here we are at the end of our stay in this base. The day before, a long discussion led us to make a decision. Now it's time to share that choice with our guests. Clara speaks shyly. We'd like to ask you a favor. The officer questions her, jerking his chin forward. She continues, Nathan and I have had a long talk. We'd like to become totally human again. We don't want these artificial bodies anymore. We'd like to have a child. The colonel raises his eyebrows to express his ignorance on the subject and turns to the third man, who grumbles, It's quite possible, says the mediator. Possible, but expensive. Very expensive. Your future salary will be severely reduced for a long time to come. Clara reacts without the slightest hesitation, I insist. We have a big project. We'll do whatever it takes. The mediator registers the request and without hesitation initiates the procedure that will restore our human nature. I take Clara's hands in mine. We take our leave and thank them warmly. We're well aware of the welcome they've given us, and that hospitality is a very meaningful word in their culture. We then make our way to the exit, where the soldier on guard at the office door leads us to the vehicle in which we leave the military base. Sitting in the back, we huddle together, our eyes filled with hopes and dreams.